where like rangefinders and like now known pro and known yardage is the thing. Back then there was no, I mean, that was like sleeping with your sister. You didn't use a rangefinder. Like you get kicked off a course.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Deer Grow.
Heck yeah, man. Dude, we put a lot of food in the ground every year, seemingly more and more, and we have a ton of fun with it during the off season. There's some struggles that come with it too, though, right? Obviously, the back of my truck is evidence, right now. It's a couple weeks after I jackknifed, a 4,800-pound material spreader, as I was coming down, and it was too much weight for my truck there. But, all those struggles aside, Deer Grow really has been a staple for our food plotting process for several years now. Yes, we like to put lime and fertilizer on the plots, if we can, but there are some that it's just we're not able to get to them, or it's not feasible for us to get out of state with that stuff. And so Deer Grow is kind of the quick and easy, but still super effective option for us to be able to get the most out of those food plots that we can every year.
Yeah, and I mean, we're guilty of overanalyzing things just like everyone else, but that's the best part about Deer Grow is that it's going to create healthier soils, which in turn makes better food plots. And the fact is we can simply spray plot start or plot till when we put the seed in the ground, and then when that plant starts to grow, we hit it with boost. And we know that we walk away, when we come back, it's going to be a great looking food plot. For anybody that's looking to try Deer Grow, if you use the code HUNTR15, that's HUNTR15 at checkout for deergrow.com, you're going to save 15% on any of your Deer Grow products. It's a great way to get started on this and just see what the results are for yourself.
Better food plots, bigger deer.
And we're back.
Hey,
HUNTR Podcast, episode 147. We've been all over the place today.
What episode is it?
Yeah, we had a bonus app. 147.
It's an episode. This is an episode.
An episode. It is. Well, no, you have your part. Sorry.
Hey, thank you guys for listening. If you enjoy our stuff, go ahead and give us a like, follow, subscribe on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. We appreciate you guys.
That we do. Okay, now we're good.
A quick reading from Jared.
Quick reading. Can we have a quick reading from Jared? It's like reading Rainbow. It is September 14th. But you're listening to this September 20-something.
September
26th?
26th.
So for a lot of people, this will be the last podcast that they listen to before opening day, deer season. Many seasons opening. What is it this year? September 30th?
Yeah, Saturday.
So that's... that would be Ohio and Pennsylvania, or September 30th, right?
Probably a lot of the northeastern stuff. I think Illinois, same.
October 1 always. Doesn't matter.
Really?
I think doesn't matter day of the week.
Weird.
Pretty sure.
That's weird.
I think it is.
No, that can't be right.
I think so.
That sounds like a Flynnism.
Nah.
A little Flinner.
I'll check it out. While we're talking, I'll check it out. But yeah, no, it's a lot of seasons opening up. Both seasons opening up. Should be pretty baller.
If you want to walk him through that.
But we have a guest
He may have to download the app. You can tell him that.
Oh, he does have to download. We have a guest today.
Hopefully. We'll see if we can get him on. Old Aron Snyder's trying to finagle his app around here.
Well, he's came down off the mountain for us.
Yeah, he made some time came out of the clouds for us.
I'm sure that's probably pretty difficult. That I don't know who I was talking to. It was somebody talking about elk hunting recently, and it kind of made me realize, like, especially if you're a bow hunter in the West, like, dude, you've got like 4 weeks, it seems like. Like 4 weeks is like the archery seasons for muleys, elk, etc., and then it's rifles.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yes. Mainly like the month of September, or some of the sheep hunts and stuff are in August, like Trav was telling us.
Yeah, and some pronghorn stuff in August.
Yeah, and it's like it's much more survival based too, and so they just go like however they're getting there, they're hiking from the trailhead or something. I mean, those Alaska hunts, guys are getting flown in and stuff. So, dude, I don't know. Aaron reached out like on Instagram, pretty sure, was like, "Hey, like the podcast?" So we've been just chatting a little bit, and I know a little bit about Aaron, about just I think we've seen him on Rogan before, and I believe owns Kifaru packs.
Yep.
And like,
so obviously the podcast there we've seen a lot.
And from the outside looking in is like a big prepper, like in terms of for the season. Like
military background?
I'm going to say yeah.
We'll find out.
Yeah. He's a hard ass for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I believe that. Also, and we'll get into it with him.
We might have an arm wrestling, like a remote arm wrestling match here before the end of this.
Yeah, he's stacked. He's a big dude too. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. Also know that he's involved with this Born Primitive a little bit too. I'm not sure how, but
I didn't know. Yeah, until you just said that a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, I've been digging their shorts lately, wearing them.
Yeah, you're a big cutoff short guy, yeah.
I am now. I had not been, and then all of a sudden I bought a couple pairs of these. I'm like, these are nice. They got flex in them. Like, I got to be able to move. I got to be able to
rock a split at a moment's
notice.
notice.
Man. If I got to pull a squat in the middle of somewhere, I need them to go with me.
Sure. You do much squatting?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Can you do a full squat without bringing your heels off the ground?
Yes.
Yeah, like a caveman squat.
Yeah.
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 Nice.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I was doing weighted uphill packs this morning. Had
rocking.
Yeah, had a 65-pound weight vest on. Did a mile straight uphill.
Yeah, that's no joke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was burning.
For what? Just for
getting ready.
Preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool.
Being fitness for the season.
Uh-huh.
I felt good in the hills of Kentucky.
Yeah.
I was rolling.
I'm glad you're not one of those guys that, no offense to Aaron if he is, but shaves your arm. You ever see him guys?
Shave his arm?
I'm not saying Aaron is, but have you ever seen him guys, like the fitness guys that shave their arms?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to jump to him. Aaron Snyder.
Okay.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Muddy.
Man, Jared, we probably have been using Muddy products for at least 10 years now.
It's a long time, dude.
It's been a long time. And I can remember when it was simply just safety harnesses and camera arms of all things. And, that's evolved to where you and I both have a bunch of Muddy box blinds as well.
I would say a bunch. But yeah, they've come a long way. And certainly the box blinds are huge. Shot that buck over your shoulder out of a Muddy box blind a couple of years ago. The harness and all of the other safety accessories really are a major component of what Muddy offers for me. We've had some injuries in the past. I've had some tree stand accidents. This is all back before we were using, frankly, harnesses, the lineman's belt while we're hanging stuff, and the safe lines. I have those in every single one of, our fixed tree stands now. And so we really have made safety a priority. That's a big deal for us. And, Muddy has everything we need for that.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing about Muddy is anyone listening to the HUNTR Podcast can save 20% using the code HUNTR20. That's HUNTR20. Anything that you can see on the Muddy Outdoors store online, use that code, save yourself 20% for this hunting season.
Go Muddy.
And we've got Aaron on with us. Just like that.
Easy peasy,
Smooth transitions, huh? Well, listen, dude, we appreciate you coming on. I know you've just been up on the mountain here for a while. It's September out there, so I can imagine that's kind of the place you want to be.
Yeah, I was gone. I was in northern British Columbia for 5.5 weeks, I guess. So
Holy
just
cow.
got back here for a few days, and I head out again tomorrow. So
5.5 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was a long trip. It was a good trip, but yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. And I spent the last few days physically recuperating. I'm not getting any younger, so nice to have a little break.
I know, dude. I said on the last podcast this morning, it's like when we come home, it's like our wives are like, "Oh, you came home, you should be rested. He was just doing this thing he wanted to do." I'm like, "No, dude, I need to go to the freaking hospital. Like we were just in battle for 5 weeks."
Yeah, definitely.
What were you hunting?
So I hunted mountain goat myself, and then I helped out on four stone sheep and 5 mountain goat hunt. No, 3 stone sheep and 5 mountain goat hunts while I was up there. So
wow.
Yeah. Would you say that's your primary species? You do a lot of sheep hunting from year to year?
Man, I don't personally do hardly any. That's kind of a rich man's sport. I definitely help out on a lot of them, but the whole sheep hunting side of things is, I don't want to say it's a rich man's sport, because you can draw a sheep tag or whatever, but if you'll notice, like anybody that has the sheep bug or shot multiple slams, not that they're not deserving of it, but they have a lot of money.
Yeah, they've got access via money.
Sure.
Yeah, stone sheep are like 65 to 85 grand. All sheep are probably going 30.
Is that just the tag, Aaron?
The hunt, right? So that's like booking a hunt with an outfitter, because obviously non-resident or from the lower 48 or wherever you're from.
Yep.
But Doll sheep are that 34 to 40 range, I guess. Now you can bighorn tags sometimes can go for 120 to 180,000.
Whoa.
For the hunt. Anyway, it's an expensive sport. Jeez. So, but I like going on them. Obviously I'm going back up there next year to guide full time with them. So it'll be fun.
Wow, man. That's
Very
really cool. Yeah, it's kind of funny because I know you see like the sheep slam stuff and things like that, and obviously, I mean, not easy species to go out there and kill either, right? But from access to them, like for most of us who are hunting, East Coast whitetails or Midwest whitetails, we don't even fathom like the cost of barrier to entry there.
I'm just thinking about how many farms I could buy with that much cash on hand,
Yeah.
Yeah, excuse me. That's a good way to look at it, though. I mean, the thing is, like, I don't look at it as farms, but how many mule deer hunts or goat hunts could I go on or whatever?
Absolutely.
Like I like mountain goat and mule deer hunts. So.
Well, where are you from, Aaron?
Originally, I'm from Oregon. I'm in Wyoming. We moved the business to Wyoming about, almost 2 years ago now.
And the business being Kifaru.
Kifaru, correct.
Yep. Is that the only business that you own?
I'm part owner in that, as well as the Born Primitive Clothing. I have a military training company as well, photography, and then I kind of consult for different companies as well as work on designs, things like that in the outdoor world.
Yeah, no way. Jeremy had just mentioned this Born Primitive thing, so you're part owner of. Yeah, he's wearing your shorts.
I'm wearing the friggin' shorts, dude. I found them like, I don't know. I'm not much of a short guy to begin with, right? But like in the summer, it's hot and I'm sweaty as fuck. So it's like, I don't know what came across, probably an ad or something. And I saw these like cut off shorts, and for me, they're like, flex. They got, you can move in them. I was like, all right, I'll try these. And I
texted me about him. You're like, hey, I know. He's like, no homo. I know you're not much of a short guy, but you should check these out.
They're badass, dude. I've got several pairs of them at this point.
Nice. You guys make pants too?
Yeah. So that's like the Born Primitive side, which Bear Handlin is the owner of that, and that's the CrossFit side, outdoor, whatever. Yep. And then there's the Born Primitive Outdoor, which he owns that as well, and I'm a percentage owner in that.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, because I've seen, that's why I told Jared, I was like, well, I've seen Aaron on some of the Born Primitive Outdoor stuff, talking about the different pants and, technical features of them and stuff. And I was like, so I know he's associated with it somehow.
Oh, we've seen you around. I mean, our paths have kind of like almost crossed in some. We've seen you on Rogan before, right? Did you do that podcast?
Yeah, I did I did a podcast with Rogan. It's been a few years now. I'm actually thinking about it. It's probably 2019, maybe I did that.
And who else was on that pod? There was another guy on that as well, right?
No, not with me. Not the one. It was just him and I.
Just you and Joe.
But I've had a lot of my friends on there. Obviously, whatever he's brought me up multiple different times for certain conversations he's had or whatever.
How cool! So. I can't say that was the first time, but I've seen you there. And I
mean, obviously the Kifaru podcast stuff,
the Kifaru stuff as well. Are you you have any dealings with Brian Call? Is that like a buddy of yours, or?
Brian and I used to have do a podcast together. Gritty Bowman, I think.
Yeah.
I think he changed the name of it to
did.
Gritty now, because they do rifle and bow hunts, and that was a few. So that was in 2016, before actually podcasts got really big, and then. That was we did a couple years. We did that, and then I started Kifaru Cast, and then he kind of partnered up with Mountain Ops. And I'm not sure what's going on now. I think he works with Go Hunt now. Maybe I'm not 100% sure with him and Ryan Lampers. So.
Okay, right on, dude. There's a whole like. The funnest thing for podcasting for Jeremy and I is just like networking, getting to know guys, and it's funny how you get into different circles of guys, and it's like, holy crap, we have a lot of mutual connections, more than any of us would probably think.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, now I got my hands in so much different stuff, and I'm not like the normal, like I don't run Kifaru. Anders, my general manager, runs Kifaru. I show up occasionally and screw things up, but I'm out in the field a lot, and I do a lot of seminars and stuff like that. But obviously, like being able to do that, you meet so many different people, whether I'm in an airport and they're like, oh, hey, I follow you, or you hunted with my buddy, so it's always nice to have that.
So you reached out initially, was it because of the Matt Ranella podcast? Is that what it was? Or was it Josh Bomar?
I can't remember. I don't know. I think I listened to one and said good. I think I said good job on the podcast.
Yeah, you did. And Jeremy and I were together, and I was like, check it out, dude. Aaron just wrote us.
I think it might have been the Matt Ranella one, because I did one with with him, and he's a rare and delicate flower.
Oh my!
Here, that's one way to put it.
That's about the best way to describe that one.
Yeah, and now all that kind of started. It was weird because I respect his brother. His brother doesn't necessarily get along with me that much, just because of some of his financial backing stuff. But either way, Matt was kind of connected with this dude that made a list of the top 25 worst people for hunting. And I think I came in at a solid maybe 13th or 7th.
Wow. Really?
So, and it was weird because there was a lot of misinformation, and I was sponsored by Kifaru, and I did it all for the gram and, the normal stuff. And I was laughing about it because I'm like, well, believe me, it has nothing, Instagram's part of it, but I did this, I'm working on, I'm working on 50, but I'm 47, or I'll be 47 in January. So
that's pretty close.
I didn't have cell phones when I was younger. There was no computers, and I've hunted since birth, basically. So Matt had made a comment because I said I was going to conk him in the head or something. I saw him. And,
I'm going to kick your ass.
Yeah. Well, I just said he needed conked in the head. And so on a podcast he said he was going to sodomize me with a fire extinguisher. So when he asked me to be on his podcast, I said, I only have one condition: that you actually try to do that. That's it. And he's like, no, man, I'm an internet badass. There's no way I'm going to try to do that. So I was joking around with him, and we had a good conversation. He was a little bit out there in some of his views or whatever, but
a
little harsh around the edges, a little brash about how he's gone about
a lot of assumptions about people that frankly he's never met or talked to. I think was the biggest
with
thing.
A lot of underlying truth, frankly. I think we did find a lot of common ground, but just it's hard the way he's going about it. It's a little rough.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I understand about hunting pressure and things like that, but there's also different ways to go about things, and you're always going to have followers that agree with you, right? You go to a Catholic church and you preach Catholicism, you're going to nail it, right? Everybody's going to agree with you. But, depending upon how you come about something or how you present it to the world, is going to really tell the story of the rest of the book you're writing or whatever you want to look at it. And when, you come on there and say Joe Rogan's horrible for hunting and Steve Rinella is the worst thing ever, and it's probably not a good way to start, but what do I know?
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think the big thing that you kind of see there too is something we did have some common ground with Matt was talking about hunter access and the need for more expansive programs. And one of the things that he mentioned is I wish the industry would get in on it. In the same breath, he was shitting all over every manufacturer under the sun, And it was dude, you can't shit on these guys and then turn around and ask them to fund your project.
It took a while to get there too, man, because he's he's from Montana, right?
Yeah.
So he's very much
he's a Michigan guy originally.
He's not from Montana. He's just living there now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, so his mission, his mindset is around these trailheads being crowded and not being able to draw tags, and we kind of charged into the conversation head on with corn piles and crossbows in the Northeast and public land access issues and overcrowding and stuff like that. And so it was interesting to try to find some common ground with the issues we're facing versus what he's and a lot of you Western guys are probably facing.
Well, and I get it. I do promote hunting, and I promote people getting outdoors and, obviously, taking animals and eating them. And his big thing in that podcast, one of the funniest parts of it is he's like, do you believe in the North American model for conservation? I'm like, well, yeah, of course, it's kind of an all or nothing thing. And he immediately just dives in and he's like, so according to my researchers, you shot 11 animals last year. And I was like, oh, no, hell no. I said, I probably shot 50, maybe more. And it probably, honestly, it's probably 100. And, in his mind, that was against the North American model of conservation. And depending upon how you understand that or read that, I look at it totally differently. I have a ton of employees here, and I give them all wild game. I consume personally at least 400 pounds a year, if not more. My wife gives gift baskets out when she sells a house of wild game. Give it to the neighbors, right? Spread the, hey, honey's not bad. It's a, valid and valuable resource. And it helps show people hey, these guys aren't cutting the heads off and leaving on the mountain. He doesn't look at it that way, right? So then I was also trying to explain, hey, a lot of these are in Oklahoma and Texas that I'm shooting private land.
Right.
that no one can hunt. It's just access I have. So then the access thing came up, and he was like, well, I think you should allow hunters on that land. And I'm like, so you're going to tell a cattle rancher, third generation, second generation, brand new cattle rancher, bled, sweat, tears, poured his life into that land, that he shouldn't guide on it, that he should just let people he's never met. And it's like, that's part of his income too. And he's earned that. He's earned that right.
Yep.
And so the whole conversation was a little weird for me, but, you know, it went all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was an interesting one for us for sure too.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, at the end of the day, and I mean, however you want to look at him or not, like the fact that him and his brother are literally estranged at this point over this, you know, dispute is fucking sad. Like, I mean, the fact that you've let that get to that level is like, geez, man, like, I understand that you feel like this is a big mission here, but you know, kind of listen to the people around you. Like, you're saying some things that are pretty spot on, but you're saying a lot of things that, you know, nobody else is really agreeing with you anyways. And that's the stuff that's burning the bridge with your brother on.
There's also a pretty significant house that's been built, maybe more on Steve's side, but, you know, Matt is building his, you know what I mean? It's like, dude, Steve Ranella owns like an empire of like, you know, hunting influence, from his content media to all the manufacturing brands that are involved. Like there's no turning away from that. It's not like you're like, you're right, dude. I got, you know,
Steve's done a lot of good for the industry. I mean,
sure.
You know, so I mean, again, it's just different outlooks in life, and you know, it's no skin off my ass, like whatever, right?
We don't really have an opinion, Aaron. We've never met Steve. You know, Matt was our first conversation, and we see from a distance. We're like, oh yeah, hey, MeatEater's always top of the charts, and Netflix and all this, and whatever.
Well, no, I mean, when I say opinion, like Matt's opinion is his opinion. It's a free country. He can have that opinion. It's not a big deal, but. You know, when you talk about hunter recruitment, there'll be people say, and don't even bring up hunter recruitment, that's stupid, we don't need more hunters. Well, what if you were that guy, right? What if you were that person that nobody recruited you? Mm-hmm. So why do I have the gift of getting to hunt, and Joe Smith down the road that's like starting to look into it, sees the MeatEater, should I not help him get into the outdoors? Should we hoard it, you know? And I just don't think that we should. I'm not saying it's a perfect system.
I don't either.
And I think that we could, you know, do different things on tag allocation, shit like that. But, you know, I mean, it's hard for me, for something I love so much, to not share that, right?
Yeah,
it's hard for me to not give advice to help somebody do a backpack hunt or whatever.
100%.
Agree.
That's exactly what we told him to, because he was like pointing fingers at the hunting public, being like, yeah, I think it's super unethical what they're doing. And I'm like, I can't in good faith, you know, say that you shouldn't tell people about the thing that you love and are super passionate about. Like you should do that. I think go ahead. You
probably shouldn't give away like super good areas.
No
right?
doubt.
You got to make people earn it. You know, I get that part of it, but
no doubt.
The thing is like if I'm heading to, well, this isn't a good example because I've done it my whole life, but if I'm coming from back east and I'm doing an elk hunt, and you're going to do it anyway, right? You're going.
Yep.
And you shoot me a message and I say, oh, hey, probably want to bring this sleeping bag and, you know, whatever, you know, don't camp this far from water and you have to check whatever. I'm not giving away areas, but the person's going anyway, and you kind of want them to have some chance at success, or I do. So
yeah, or at least to be safe and don't do anything stupid, you know, that's going to get themselves injured, you know, because, I think that's the big thing that, you know, Matt is looking at it holistically and saying like all of this media is bad, and that's just not the case, right? I mean, there's a lot of great stuff out there that is helping people, even seasoned hunters who maybe, you know, haven't gone on elk hunts and experience, myself included. Like I went on one of my first elk hunts a week ago, and you know, a couple of days before, I'm sitting there watching YouTube videos, understanding how to make better cow calls and bugles, because it's not something I do, you know, and are those media
and you had a bull at 30 yards.
Yeah, I caught a bull into 30 yards.
Yeah,
I was like, you know, he may have been half retarded or something. I don't know, but you know, at the end of the day, like,
or full.
Yeah, full. Yeah, yeah. I don't know, but it's still like those are the things that are put out there that clearly are valuable to everyone. You know, not just new hunters, but everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too, like with, you know, the doing it for the gram and things like that. Like there's totally people doing it for the gram. I'm not denying that. But like, I mean, my thing is like, you know how much more shit would die if I didn't have Instagram?
Oh, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I would be hunting way more than I do now.
Yes.
And I'm not a big fan of social media. I'm trying to exit off of social media, you know, sooner than later. But, you know, so I can't say, hey, I'm a big fan of it, but it does at times have very good qualities about it. And it's got bad ones, but you can't always focus, like, you know, as I'm getting older and looking at things differently in life, like, for fuck's sake, you can't always focus on the worst shit or you're going to slit your wrist by the time you're 40.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are a lot of good people out there. There's a lot of good hunters out there. There's a lot of new hunters out there. And so, you know, you can't just look at the bad stuff all the time, which a lot of people tend to do. So,
yeah, for sure. One thing that I think we all kind of agreed on was like, there's a lot of intentional, whatever it is R1, the recruitment.
Yeah.
There's a lot of intentional recruitment monies that like probably is not necessary. If you would take that money and put it into improving the experience, creating whatever it is, more access, more whatever. Dude, hunting's freaking cool enough as it is. Like most of us have somebody or have seen something that would influence us to say, hey, that's pretty cool. It's something I would want to get into. Like, I don't know if the R1 is as necessary as like.
Probably not. I mean, paying people to, you know, promote hunting in Arizona and other things was probably the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. Cause like I went to Arizona the last few years and definitely paying people money that could be used for wildlife habitat or restoration, things like that was some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. So yeah, that part I don't really understand. But again, that's just my opinion. I mean, I'm not an expert. I just
sure.
You know,
neither are we.
Kind of crowded in the
yeah. I think a lot of the discussion that we have around it, when you talk about the recruitment side, at least, is the retention area, right? And that's, to Jared, to your point, the experience, the access, like, you know, how much effort is going into essentially keeping the hunters who are actively hunting happy.
Yeah.
You know, around experience, around access, around ability to draw tags, like that's. I think that's one thing that, you know, certain agencies I think do a good job. I think other ones take their eye off of that one because they focus so heavy on recruitment.
Sure.
Yeah.
Moving targets.
No, I
sure.
would agree.
Yep. So, you know, Aron, kind of looking at your background, grew up in Oregon. I assume, or kind of military background?
Yeah, I was in the military for a while. So I joined, I guess, in 94. And then I was in for a few years. I was a combat engineer at 12 Bravo, and then I got out of the Army and didn't really know what I was going to do. So I actually worked at an archery shop for a while, and amongst other things. And then the short version, I had a guy that came in that I was working on his bow, and he owned one of the larger commercial glass shops. So he did high rises and curtain walls, things like that. He picked me up, and I started doing that. He took good care of me as far as training me and everything else. And I'm pretty good at math as far as construction math. So I did that for quite a while, I guess several years. Mostly like my thing was like the curtain walls, revolving doors, big entryways, Euro shower doors, things like that. And then I started helping out at Kifaru a little bit. This is really the condensed version. Patrick Smith owned it at the time. That's who we bought it from. Mm-hmm. He kind of took me under his wing, and then, I helped him out for a couple years and kind of just decided one day I need to shit or get off the pot if I'm going to try to live outside more than I already was. And so, you know, at that time I was, you know, doing a lot of things that were not probably monetarily the smartest thing in the world to do. So I didn't have any furniture. I slept on a thermarest air pad and spent every bit of money I had to try to go outside. And I don't mean like on extravagant hunts, like literally just afford to go backpacking and hunting locally. And then I quit. And one thing led to another, and it actually, you know, panned out, and became the president of Kifaru in 2014, and then bought it in 2019.
Wow. So almost 4 years, or right around 4 years of ownership right now on the Kifaru side?
No. So let's see, man, maybe we bought it in 2020. So we bought it in 2020. because it'd be like 2.5 years, I guess now.
Okay. And I mean, how did you feel? Obviously 2020 world was going to shit, right?
I bought a business in 2020 also.
Me too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you obviously were familiar with the business and kind of had a vision, I assume, of where you saw or where you wanted this company to go, right?
Yeah, I did. And I mean, obviously we're still working on that now. We have it took a while. Obviously it was family owned and operated, and, they did well. We were growing like crazy the last few years since I'd come on board. But there was other things that we wanted to do and make. Some I can't talk about. Things were coming out in January, and other things that we'll be coming out with it once we got the day-to-day, the operational side figured out and kind of restructured things like that, we're now a little more ready to take on the world. So it's gone really well so far.
Very cool, man.
I say really well. It's been an epic fucking pain in the ass, but it's going well.
Business
as it always is,
but
man.
it also yields some pretty epic opportunities on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Owner's guy's name was Patrick. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
So it was Patrick was like a friend, like kind of a mentor. So he kind of took you under his wing.
Well, Patrick only had daughters. So at that time I was spending, 150 nights a year in the wilderness, more than I should have been. And he was intrigued by that, especially in his case, a younger generation, and liked some of my views and how I did things and living off the land, that type of thing. And so, he and I bonded, father-son type of bonding. And, he was a pioneer in a lot of different things, a lot of things people don't even know about, but he owned Mountain Smith, which Mountain Smith is kind of in the backpacking world now, and not the company it was when he owned it, but he sold that at one time and then started Kifaru, focusing more on comfort, durability, tactical, like a tactical line as well. And that obviously, with, the ultralight stoves and teepees, he pioneered that. He had a lot of patents in the industry.
Wow.
The MSR snowshoes, for example, that was his design 30 years ago. He came up with those. And then MSR, he sold it to them. So anyway, he was a pioneer in a lot of different things. So it was cool to be mentored under him.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like over what course of time did you kind of rise to ultimately said you were the president of the company?
Probably 2011 or 12. I was got a small percentage in sales in the hunting line, and then, kind of went from the bottom up, helped assemble backpacks and answer the phone, customer service. And then, in 2014, I was made, president, general manager, whatever. And so fairly quickly, but we were growing at a really rapid pace as well. And then, whatever it was, 2019 or 20, and I can't remember when it started, but I was on a mule deer hunt in Arizona, and he had called me and just said, "Hey, you're the son I never had, and kind of the rightful heir to the throne. He'd like me to purchase the company from him." And I was like, "Man, I don't think I have that kind of juice, but I've got a friend of mine that I think would be interested partnering up on it, which is Chad Shumway, my business partner." And so Chad and I bought it. 2020, I guess now think about it.
Yeah.
And so and that's gone really well. Chad's an amazing, person, and we have other business ventures we're kind of partnered on as well. So and I met him from guiding him actually on a few different hunts. So.
Amazing, man. Yeah, well, I mean, on a guided hunt, you spend enough time together out there, and seems like the client and the guide either love each other or hate each other by the time it's done.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, actually, it's kind of weird. I was on one of the hunts I was just on, which hopefully he's cool with me saying this. I was helping out Troy Link. He owns Jack Link's Jerky.
Oh yeah,
extremely wealthy guy, but just super down to earth. And he and I became, real close friends. But it's like, that guy, again, great dude. But like the people you meet and how friendships start and business relations or whatever, like it was cool hanging out with him and Justin, his kind of right-hand man on that hunt. And then now obviously we're partnering up with him on certain things with Kifaru and Jack Links and, other things as well. So it's crazy how life works. And, just being, not saying I'm perfect or anything else, but just being a good person and relatable, and you know, it's there's nothing worse than being on a hunt with a bunch of fucking dickheads. So it's always
dude. The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt Archery.
Oh, dude, it's almost fall. You and I are both going to be in a tree stand with brand new Hoyt bows. We're going to be shooting the RX-7 carbon bow this year. I know Hoyt's also got the Venoms out, both equally smooth shooting, quiet bows.
Heck yeah, man. And we got a convert on our hands this year. We got a lifelong crossbow guy with a vertical bow in his hands for maybe the first time ever, a good friend of mine. And we've got them all decked out with the inline accessories from the QAD integrated Ultra Rest to the quiver. And also he's got the SL sidebar mount with a couple of stabilizers from Hoyt as well. So that's going to be a sick shooting bow.
Yeah, and Hoyt's been cool enough that anyone listening to this can save 20% on any of the soft good apparels online using the code HUNTR, HUNTR, no E. And if you want to look at the latest lineup of Hoyt bows, check out your local Hoyt dealer.
Get serious? Get Hoyt. Dude, what is there like in life, like an adventure hunt, like something like a wilderness hunt, something like that bonds people in the way that does? We spent the first 2 hours of this morning recapping a North Dakota hunt that I just did with a buddy out there, and we'd never met in person and stuff, and same deal. He was unofficially, helping me out essentially, and it's like. It's like, dude, you come away from those things with like, we've made a memory for a lifetime, like a lifelong friendship. And it's like, man, I don't know.
Oh man,
what else is there that creates that kind of a bond in people in that short of a time, you know?
I think one of the biggest factors, and it kind of goes back, I don't know, a few podcasts ago we talked about it, but and Aaron obviously said it. So I'm 39, Aaron, but when I grew up, like I didn't have social media, I didn't have a cell phone, I didn't have any of that shit. So like, pretty much every time we went, hunting, it was, interaction, camaraderie, with people. There were no distractions. I think that's what you see on these wilderness hunts is that, it's one of the few times that we're a little bit more disconnected, which forces us, frankly, to interact with other fucking human beings. Like, what I mean? Like, think about it, and it's scary because, like, my kid's in middle school now, and it's like these kids don't even talk to each other. Like, they're the human interaction. I mean, it's terrible.
It's funny you bring that up because you get in the younger demographic, and I'm not bashing any age or generation, right? Like that was the worst, right? When I was a kid and you had old guys telling you how stupid you were, but like contact, person-to-person contact, right? You can meet the most shining star on social media, male or female, right? And very out in the open and very happy. And then you meet them and they're like a social misfit in person because their entire life. I mean, like even like right now, the guy at the end of the table is on the phone, right? You didn't have that 30 years ago, right? There was no phone to be on now. And I'm just as guilty as he is. I'm only not on mine because I'm using it to talk to you guys. But you go to a gas station and everybody's in line. They're looking at their phone.
Yeah.
I had to freaking yell at Jeremy on our last podcast because I'm telling him a story and he was over texting. I was like, hey, dude, I can't focus while you're texting.
Conduct business. I mean, that's it, though. I mean, and I think that, like, we've talked about it before, but there's only so much shit that our brains can process at a time. Like, I think anymore, man, our brains are on freaking overload all the time. Like, all the time.
The dopamine drip. Yeah. I mean, the reality of it, like I said, I'm just as guilty as I was giving you.
Sure. Yeah, man. Yeah, no, it is, man. I mean, the fact is I think that when and these things are a blessing and a curse, right? I mean, because my business, I can go and hunt and travel and do things, and I still have my business right here, right? I don't necessarily have to be in the office for that stuff, but I think that if you look back to like what that interaction was like, even, in high school and stuff like that versus what it is now, like, man, it's scary. I don't know and I think that's the problem we see coming out is like when some of these kids get into an actual workforce to where they have to like communicate with people, no idea. They're terrible. They have no freaking idea what they're doing.
Well, and it's crazy again, and I don't know where are we looking at age? It sounds like I'm the old man of the sea here.
39,
30, 26, 25.
Yeah. Okay, so let's rewind since you're the youngest guy, right? So at 26, right? For me, they just came out with cell phones, right? And it was not cheap, and it was this big, I think it was Motorola.
Oh yeah.
Or I can't remember, and it was probably $1 a minute or whatever, and internet, like for me anyway, the dial-up wasn't even there. Like I played Oregon Trail or whatever the hell they had in school, but I went to a really small school. So
Jenny fell off
busy
the raft.
Scurvy.
What's that?
Nothing. I was making a Oregon Trail reference.
Oh God, yeah, exactly. You have cholera or whatever.
Yeah. Badass game, by the way.
Yeah, great game.
But back like then, you walked a lot more, right? And then you had more. You had fitness. You were playing soccer or football or baseball. You were doing whatever, fishing, outdoor stuff. Depending upon where you're from. But way more human interaction because you couldn't just hand a kid a phone and say, "Get out of my hair." Where now the phone's kind of a babysitter, so it's ingrained to them, just like dieting, right? When your kid's good, you give them candy. Wow, fuck, that's probably not, I'm not the parent of the year, right? But as I'm getting older, like, okay, do you really reward someone with something that bad? Because now that positive connotation rather than negative, right?
Yep.
They have a positive connotation to eating candy. If I'm really good, I get to get fat, right? And not everybody's going to get fat from eating candy, where it's just different now. And I ate really unhealthy when I was a kid, but you get my point. Like now you have a health fitness problem in the world today, especially in the US. You have a technology problem, an easy button problem. So like now when you head into the woods, fuck my life. You've got Google Earth, Spartan Forge, Onyx, Basemap, fucking GPSs. You can't get lost. And if you do, you are really fucking retarded, right? You didn't have that back then, but now, how do I navigate?
Yeah.
Boom, you can type it in. I am lost. What do I do? You couldn't have that shit back then. So even like the Garmin Zero sight. Fuck, we've made archery so easy. We have a sight that not only tells you how far the fucker it moves the pin.
Moves the pin for you.
So as I'm going off on a deep end, the happiest day of my life.
Keep going.
When they introduced a rangefinder, I actually killed an antelope that year, right?
Yep.
The easy button portion of things, and I'm not picking on, you're 25 or 6. That's not the point. It's just that at that time you did have to earn things a little bit more than you do now. And that's not your age. That's just life and how things have changed. So like right now, if I said, hey, I need you to go, let's go on a backpack hunt or whatever. You have forums, you have social media, you have YouTube. Back then, you had get the fuck out there and figure it out, right?
Yeah.
That's all you had.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you, Aaron, because like Jared and I are not nearly as familiar with like the Western style of hunting as we are in the Midwest and East. I mean, that's kind of our bread and butter. And we have seen, that game change over the last 10 years or so with Onyx, Spartan Forge, all these new technologies, cell cams for the whitetail side. I mean, how significant has it changed out West here over the last 10 or 15 years?
Game cameras, not really at all, in my opinion, but the technology side on mapping software, not inReaches, GPSs, things like that.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. Like a lot, like that's probably the worst thing that's happened. And as I say that, they're good. Like I'm a big fan of Spartan Forge, and I work with them. And when I say bad, what do we mean by bad?
Right.
Okay. Is it bad to get people in and out safe? No. Of course not. Hunter pressure, that's bad, I guess. So like those portions, but all of these things are, when I say fixable, they're all controllable. Tag allocation, that's controllable, right? Now, when I say that, some of the things that people complain about don't make as much sense as others, other than like when you put in for a tag. So like if they only give out 200 tags for unit 681, they're giving those tags out no matter what, right? But more people may be putting in for them. So there's not over pressure. You're only getting 200.
Right.
You only give 200 tags.
Just your draw
but there's
odds.
More people. Yeah, your draw odds are decreasing, right? So I get that. So the pressure on the ground isn't any higher. It's just there's less of a chance for you drawing the tag.
Yep.
But once they get in there, their probability should be higher of killing something than it was 30 years ago because of technology. The other flip side of that coin is there was more laziness now. So what you had to do back then required you to have a lot more boots on the ground, learn field craft, woodsmanship, just become a better outdoorsman because you had to learn it on the ground. Now you can kind of half-ass wing it and get out there. So maybe that person might not be as good of a hunter as somebody from 20 or 30 years ago because they had to have more boots on the ground.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's kind of, we even see that in the whitetail side. Like, I mean, you know, before I even step foot on a property, first thing I'm doing is pulling up maps, and I'm looking, I'm marking some areas I want to get boots on the ground. Basically, I'm being more efficient with my time on the ground using those mapping softwares.
Well, and we don't really have some of those safeguards in place. Not that I'm necessarily advocating for them, but there's plenty of like over-the-counter whitetail states. You know what I mean? There's states you can go to, and it's like, man, it'll take as many people as want to buy tags. You know, you keep going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I mean, while we've got all the, like, you guys aren't as familiar with Western hunting. Like, it sounds like you guys just went hunting out west, but not as, you know, not as much as obviously somebody that lives out here. So, like, if I asked all three of you, hey, you know, round table, I need you guys to come out, you know, I say need. You're going to go out west next year and hunt in, pick a state, Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys need to be successful?
What do we need to be, like, as far as a gear list?
No. What do you need to be? What's the number one? What's the top three things you need to be successful to go out west and kill them?
I see. It's a test. Like if we're doing it ourselves, DIY, we're going out ourselves. What are the three things we need?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to use a mapping software. Is going to be top three for me, probably.
Mm-hmm. Not what you want, what you need to be successful.
I would say some sort of mapping software is fairly critical, and or, you know, knowledge and or compass and or something for navigation for sure. Mm-hmm. So whether those are GPS or offline maps or, sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
Okay.
My bow.
No.
Still, I need my bow.
Off the top of our head, I'd say that's one.
I need my bow.
Yeah, I need more than three things, dude. Yeah, you need your, you know, bow, arrow, release, rangefinder, the four essentials. I guess you could do without a rangefinder if you had to.
Yeah, so when I say the top three things, which I get to bow, obviously, I guess I was thinking that was a given, that you would need your bow. So without that, you know, you need to know what an elk does, right? You need to know animal behavior.
Yeah.
No one ever mentions that on their top three. But if you're going to kill something, mapping software will not really get it done as much as knowing habitat and animal behavior. You know, knowing how to plan a route, land navigation, knowing how to get there. And if I took technology out of that question, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, other than a bow, what are you going to need? Well, you're going to need hard work and fitness.
Yeah.
You're going to need that.
Huge.
You're going to need no animal behavior, things like that.
Yeah, calling would be a big one.
I was thinking
you're going to need to know how to not die, right? You're going to need to know how to live out there.
Yes.
Especially Nick.
Those three things are never mentioned, ever. And those are the three most important things. Generally, when I ask people, they're like, well, I'm going to need good clothing and I'm going to need mapping software or whatever. And it's like, well, they were killing shit a lot longer.
Yeah, before that.
Sure.
And they were doing it without all of those things. And those
are also dying a lot more frequently, probably.
I think the fitness thing is one that, I don't know. It's hard to describe. Like even to our whitetail guys, because you know, whitetail hunters are probably the laziest hunters on the face of the earth. You know, either that or turkey hunters. I don't know. No offense, but
well, just you know, Western hunters kind of need out of necessity. You have to have.
But
some
I mean,
sort of...
I don't think people understand. Like even for us on whitetail, like we try to keep ourselves in. Like it just feels good to be able to hike all my gear in, hang a stand, or do whatever, and like, you know, feel good when I get to the stand, not be like dying.
Dude, it's not just hunting. I mean, if we're being real, like just for life, just for everyday life, dude. I mean, to be able to keep your brain regular and stuff. And I mean, Aaron, you got a hoodie on there, but you're jacked, right?
I
you work out a lot?
Yeah, I mean, with the fitness side of things, it's also, I mean, I'm married, but no woman ever said, man, I wish your chest and arms were just a little bit smaller.
Yeah, right. They're just a little too hard.
And not to say, like, obviously, you know, there's dudes that'll run me into the ground because I'm packing a little more size than others. But I mean, the general just fitness, right? Whether it's running or biking or lifting or whatever, you know, but again, like to have that total package. And when I say that, meaning like, you find somebody who's decently fit and then they understand animal behavior, habitat, and woodsmanship, and they're not afraid to go the distance. I'll pick that guy, even a fat guy of that version of that guy, than I would a skinny guy that knows none of those things. And the more you go out west, part of it is fear, right? People are afraid to go farther. They're afraid to stay overnight. They're afraid to run out of food. And once you get past those fears, your horizon broadens greatly, meaning, it takes 2 weeks to die without eating. So you can go a day without food, right? Like you run out of food at 3, you don't have to go back and get more. Your ass is going to be fine for a couple of days. It's not that big of a deal. And knowing that what your physical and mental capabilities are, and that they can be pushed at a level that most people don't even understand, adding the field craft or woodsmanship to that and the animal behavior, you're probably going to be at a higher rate of success than someone that just focuses on like a fitness and mapping software or gadgets, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge.
My mental toughness, dude, that does definitely apply to whitetail hunting too. I mean, not that it's life or death, but I mean, the highs and lows of bow hunting any species was enough to get to somebody.
I mean, I hunt whitetail a shitload, and I can tell you right now, like I would far choose, packing in 7 miles and killing an elk and packing it out than sitting in a tree stand for 12 hours without seeing anything, because that is the most mental toughness I've had to. The other part's easier for me. I'm used to it. Sitting there watching squirrels run around in circles sucks.
Yes.
That's probably the funnest thing about getting to do some Western hunts for us is like, and we've talked about, because so much of the, Northeastern and Midwestern stuff that we do is like speculation, strategy, and, scarce sightings, trail cameras, this and that. When we get to go out to like the Dakotas, for instance, we went out and did a mule deer hunt in North Dakota, and we're like, holy shit, dude, like there it all is. I can get up on this high point and I can see everything unfolding right in front of us. And it's like, not only that, we don't have to go sit somewhere and wait for them to come to us. Let's start chasing.
Yeah. Go after them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing, like, if you're or like stair stepping it or whatever, the Dakotas are a good place to start of like, I don't want to say entry level, but it's not a 12-day backpack hunt, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Just getting your boots on the ground, getting loose to glassing, stalking, things like that. And then, obviously once you're at it's kind of blown out of proportion. The, what's the word?
Difficulty?
Well, too much whiskey over time has rotted my brain. It is kind of shown in its highest positive light backpack hunting. Like this sought after.
It's a low barrier to entry. It's very accessible.
What's that?
It's a low barrier to entry. It's very accessible. It's not like a high country hunt.
Yeah, but it's kind of sold as this like super cool thing, which it can be.
Yeah.
But then you get out there and your fucking feet hurt, you're starving, and your lips are chapped because you didn't drink enough water, and animals are blowing out. It's hotter than hell. You didn't sleep worth a shit because there's a rock under your mattress or your air pad deflated, right, or whatever. Pick it. It rained all day, and now all your shit's wet. And that part doesn't get as glorified as the coolness and photos or whatever. And so, like when people head out west and they're like, okay, I'm going on my first 12-day backpack hunt. I'm like, no, you're not. Like, probably not going to make it. Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I played college football. I'm like, yeah, I don't care if you're, talk to Jesus daily face to face. Like, you're not going to make 12 days. There's 1 percentile that can do that. So doing like maybe 3 to 4 days and integrating yourself into it and kind of working slowly, because a 12-day stint is a bit living off your back. I mean, that's a tall order.
Yeah. Well, especially for most people when they're not adapted to that at all. Like they go from 0 to 60. It's like, hey, I'm doing day hunts and things like that. And now I'm going on this 12-day, backcountry hunt. And it's like, you have no idea how to function that way.
Yeah. And I can say it on the other end of whitetail hunting. Like I remember thinking I'll sit all day if I have to. And I made it till like 10 and I'm like, no, I'm getting the fuck out of this tree stand.
Well, dude, full disclosure, we've never done that. I've like lived off our backs basically for a hunt. Like,
no,
I mean, I've done
backpacking trips, but not hunts.
Yeah. And I've stayed in tents and stuff, but it's, not like you're doing.
No.
Well, and I mean, I find enjoyment in it. Obviously, like people fight in a cage and find enjoyment in getting hit in the face. Right? Everybody has enjoyment of pain of some sort, some way, whether that be long distance running, swimming, whatever. So like on the backpack hunting side, or like what I was just doing, you're dropped off in a tiny little pond or on a, ridge line where the it's kind of a 2-seater aircraft can land. And then, off you go for 7 to 10 days. And then, you're either got to find your way back to where that plane can land or coordinate a lake that you can, or a landing strip you can get to with no support at all. And if weather comes in, you're obviously stuck there even longer. So that higher level of field craft or whatever is is definitely there, as well as navigation and knowing where you're going. Also getting the animal, out and figuring out the easiest course or route to get that animal out so you're not abusing your body. That's kind of my thing. So I like that. But then I've went out and helped with like some whitetail habitat management and food plots. And, I've helped cattle ranchers, and I'm like, fuck, this is miserable for me. Like, I don't want to be out here, planning shit. Like, I want to be on the ground. So everything's got its own source of pain. It's just what you're used to or what you prefer.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. I think that, if you look at the media side of things for anything, I think the one thing that people will believe is that whatever they see on it looks easy, right? It can only prepare you so much for what you're getting into. So if you're showing this, 7 to 10 day Alaska hunt for caribou or whatever, somebody will say, oh, you can't necessarily depict as much the things that are happening behind the scenes, whether it's the, grizzly bear experiences or the weather hardships and things like that. So, oftentimes if there is a downfall in a lot of the content and media that's being put out, it's what you see and how that you're taking that and perceiving it to say, well, that didn't seem too bad. I could go do it. Then once you're in it, it's a whole different situation.
Well, exactly what he was talking about earlier. Like just even the lack of sleep, the travel just to get to where you're going in most places is enough to like wipe a lot of people out.
Mm-hmm.
Even deer hunting, dude. Like just even whitetail deer hunting. As I'm walking, like in the dark, like early in the morning with my stand on my back, I think to myself, I'm like, freaking, this is hard. Like a lot of people wouldn't do this.
Mm-mm.
No. Climbing trees, like even just basic stuff. I mean, that's not survival even at all, but it's just the barrier to entry to hunting is, it's not easy.
And I think that's probably where, like, circling back, it's easier than it once was. And that's where maybe older crusties, and I'll include myself in some of that. Not that I get irritated over it, but like, I more make jokes about it. Like, dude, do you know how much of a game changer a rangefinder was? Like,
oh yeah, dude.
That big Bushnell 500, which was like the equivalent of carrying a Bible on your chest, and it had just a binocular. And then obviously things have changed since then, but like the rangefinder would be number one, I guess, as far as like catapulting things. But that mapping software and stuff, think how many people would be lost or not into the wood without a GPS or mapping software.
People get lost on their way home from work still because they have to plug it into their phone. It's like, dude, you do this twice a day, every day.
Dude, I catch my, not on the way home from work, but I catch myself, like if my phone dies, and I'm like, where am I? Like, how am I going to get home? I have to stop somewhere and buy a phone charger so I can navigate my way home,
Yeah.
I mean, as we talk about this, tell you, like for me, the most lost I've ever been, not where I was going to be in trouble lost, but turned around, was whitetail hunting in Alabama. It's flat. There's no mountains. There's, I went
just
after
flat.
a deer.
Pines.
Well, I went after a deer I'd hit with a headlamp on. I didn't mark my stand. I'm whitetail hunting. It's air quotations easy. And I get in there and I find it, and I kind of looking around. I'm like, shit, I don't know where I even came from. And, I'm trying to track myself back, but there were so many deer in that wood line. I'm like, okay. So I'm following my track, but now I'm like, okay, where am I coming from? What if this isn't my track? I'm going to be even more lost or whatever. And obviously I can just walk in one direction and hit a road. So my life wasn't in jeopardy where it would be in the mountains. But, even that, like, it's kind of funny. People ask like the most lost I've ever been in the mountains, and I'm like, it was in fucking Alabama in the swamp, and I was lost as shit. I ended up walking to the highway and looping back to get back to my stand.
Yeah,
man, the rangefinder thing, you're right though. Like, I remember when I first got a rangefinder and was in the tree stand with it, I was like, holy shit, I suck at ranging. Like, I'd be like, that bush is like, you sit there and you're like, 25 yards. 37. It's just that was the reality of it, when you were going in and when you were target shooting, at least for me in my backyard, right? I paced it. It's like, okay, target's here, pace back 20, mark it, pace back 30. And that's not accurate,
I'll bet. I'll bet in the what? Sorry, go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, no, I just, on the rangefinder side of things, like I shot tournaments back in the day. So unknown yardage tournaments. So I really attribute to a lot of the animals that I've shot over the years is being able to judge on the fly from shooting so many tournaments where, like, rangefinders, like now known pro and known yardage is the thing. Back then there was no I mean, that was like sleeping with your sister. You didn't use a rangefinder. Like, you get kicked off a course. And now, like, you're like, I'm super close friends with Levi Morgan and several other tournament archers, and you shot 280 feet per second, plus or minus 3%.
Yep.
And it was all unknown out to 50 yards, plus or minus 3%.
Yeah.
So like elk hunting or whatever, it was huge to be able to judge, because you're calling in an animal, closer, the hope is obviously sub 50, but definitely, or sub 20, but definitely sub 50, where, you had a realistic chance if you could judge to hit it. Then you go antelope hunting and you don't have a rangefinder. Well, shit, it's in the prairie. Like, the first year rangefinders came out was the first year I shot an antelope. I wasn't chunking, arrows in the buckwheat, because I was like, oh, that's 67. Shit, I thought it was like 42. So whatever.
Yeah. I'll bet the rangefinders were probably, at least in the recent history, like the greatest innovation. I would think in
for accuracy and efficiency, probably. Yeah.
Well, 100%. The way I always look at it is, okay, tomorrow, if you take away X, Y, or Z, what will have the most, what do you want to call it? I guess not result, but what will have the most
impact?
Impact. Thank you. Impact, good or bad, right?
Right.
On hunting.
Yep.
Well, rangefinder's number one to me, right?
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can say, okay, we'll go back 30 years and shoot those compounds. They're still accurate, right?
Yeah.
So the rangefinder's number one, obviously, and then you go, okay, well, what else as far as archery? What was a big one? Some of the different technology and sights and things like that are definitely, important. Speed on some of the bows is important, but, like somebody says, well, let's just take away high-tech clothing. Well, fuck. All right, I'll wear wool. I don't give a shit. Like, that's not a big deal. But take my rangefinder away, I'm not worth a fuck. And I can.
It goes back pretty far. It's not like 10, 15 years ago. But take away releases and go back to shooting fingers, and that would would make a hell of an impact.
That's a big one.
100%. Yeah, exactly. Well, and so go ahead.
I may eat my words just from you bringing that up, because that's a good point. I guess you could shoot fingers, but it's.
I mean, my dad shot fingers in like 2004. So.
Yeah, well, he also thought he had a 10-yard pin last year. So, dude, I bet in the northeastern Midwestern world, the thing that, not that we couldn't do without them, but that's made the biggest change is trail cameras. Undoubtedly.
For whitetails.
Undoubtedly. Like, dude, just because you never did see them, you had no idea. You just hear about like, oh, it's buck this.
Saw them in a soybean field, and that was about the rarity of it.
All of a sudden, you've got like the blanket's been lifted on like this underworld of whitetails. We can see what they all are. We know what they are, for better or worse. Well,
fuck, they name them, like, hey,
yeah, oh sure,
hijack or whatever, and which was cool, whatever. But I mean.
Yeah,
the game camera thing, like Arizona too, is bad. Like, there's states out west here banning them, because the big thing is obviously like animal pressure and how that affects obviously mortality rate. But like, there's places in Arizona you go to waterhole, there's 27 cameras on.
That's the crazy. Somebody who told
Eldridge.
us, Jeremy Eldridge told us. Yeah, because when I heard that, I was like, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
that's just like. Insane to think about. Because if like we walk into an area and we're like, hey, we should put a camera here, and there's a camera there, we're like, we're not putting one here, and you leave.
Yeah. Oh no, it's crazy. You put a ground blind up, there's highly probable that somebody's going to be in your ground blind the next day and be like, well, you should have got here earlier, and there's not shit you can do about it.
Wow.
So, yeah. Do you guys work with Hoyt then?
What do you mean there's not shit you can do about it? You can take your blind back, can't you?
It's on public land, so like that's a fine line. Like, you left it there.
So. Because it's illegal to leave it there.
Just depends if you can beat the guy's ass or not.
Yeah, who's bigger?
Yeah. No, we do. We work with Eldridge and Hoyt.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, no, he's a good dude. Evan actually used to work for me.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He was actually little Evan back then. He's not little Evan now. Evan has put on some mass in the last few years. He was actually probably 145 pounds when I met him. I think he's probably 210 now.
Whoa, that's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, Eldridge is a good dude, and yeah, we were talking to him kind of about some of those new changes, and he brought up the camera ban, because I think did Utah ban them too? Did that happen?
I think so.
Somebody.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what we were talking about. And he said, yeah, and you get to these water holes, and it's crazy how many cameras are up.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think like with technology or whatever else, like, I mean, the thing that I kind of preach, there's nothing wrong with using a rangefinder. There's nothing wrong with using mapping software. But I strongly encourage people to learn how to manually navigate, learn to read a map, learn to plot a 10-digit grid coordinate, learn lat long, learn intersection, resection, be able to, when your phone goes down, be just as efficient, maybe not as fast, but as efficient as you were, to get off the mountain or whatever else. And obviously I'm old school, so I use a map a lot more than most and prefer that. But learning that and then having both makes you far more dangerous on the mountain. Learning how to judge yardage and having a ranger finder makes you far more dangerous on the mountain. And so having that skill set just makes you a better hunter and a better woodsman and outdoorsman, knowing all of those things, including I know it's crazy and I sound like an old fart, but knot tying. I always make jokes about, whatever, it's a sex knot because it's all fucked up. Learning a few knots, like square knots and a bowline or a prusik or whatever, learning things like that. So that can save your life at times, or certainly get you out of different situations. Western hunting, obviously whitetail hunting is a little bit different as far as the fieldcraft portion of it, depending upon where you're at. But it is it's a good thing to know, whether it's building a fire or making a shelter or whatever.
I think I learned it a long time ago from maps and stuff, but I think it's surprising how many people, if you handed them a compass, couldn't tell you the first thing about it. They'd have no freaking idea what to do with it.
Yeah, I give seminars and teach classes. No, believe me, it's like the compass that Jack Sparrow has. It points the direction that you're wanting most. I'm like, hey, that fucker only points one way, and that's north way. I'm not sure what you're doing.
Yeah. They have no idea. And then if you try to, get a bearing or something, no clue. And it's not. I mean, it's a skill. Especially if you're trying to plot bearings and things like that. But
see, dude, I don't even know what that is. Plot a bearing
on maps and stuff.
What?
It's you wouldn't plot a bearing, but I mean, I get what you're trying to say. But when you have a map, right, you're gonna have. I'm going to simplify this, right? You've got a bunch of different squares on that map.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So the Earth was mapped with vertical and horizontal lines.
I'm with you.
And that's one big square. And then that gets broke down to smaller squares. And then if you read UTM, that's 1,000-meter grid square. And if you turn your watch on and say, I need my location, there's going to be some numbers on there depending upon what language you speak. But if it's UTM, that's going to give you a 10-digit or 8-digit grid, and that will give you the numbers to plot on that map within 3 meters of your exact location. No different than a GPS does for you. The thing with that is when you're talking about a bearing is the direction.
Travel,
basically. So, but which you could plot on the map, but when you get lost, if you just know terrain association and you have a map, you can generally look left and say, okay, I've got extremely high jagged peak to my left. And you say, okay, I got a really big valley in front of me. I've got a long ridge line to my right. And then a pretty good, okay, there's 3 jagged teeth there. So if you can read topo lines and do terrain association, you can say, well, shit, I'm about within 100 meters. I'm right here.
Yeah.
Learning those kind of things is, super important, especially Western hunting.
Yep. Yeah. And that's, most people rely on this now.
That's funny. It's it's not even a thought for us most of the time. Usually it's the
only time I use a compass is if I'm just in the middle of nowhere and I'm trying to see where the wind's at. I'm just oh, okay, west.
Which I mean, when you don't need to use it, it's not as important. And I don't want to take up too much time or whatever. I should probably go here in a little bit. My wife doesn't kill me, but when you have. It's kind of in the military, the military always bases their next war off of their last one, right? And so that may not be the best decision. So a lot of times you're basing what you're doing, training, practicing off of your last experiences. So you missed a deer because you punched the trigger. So you're going to work on your shot process. Okay, well, if let's say your first backpacking trip, you carried way too much shit. Well, your next one, you're probably going to be way too light. Right. And so if you never had a GPS go down or your phone run out of battery, it's not that important. But the moment you do, and it's sheer panic, guarantee you're going to start Googling and learning how to land nav or how to navigate. It's just, it doesn't happen to most people because they're not in that situation because of technology, and they're not out long enough for a battery to run out, or they don't flip a canoe over in a river or a raft where they're like, shit, now my battery's dead, or my phone's fried. So
yeah. Well, dude, let me ask you this before we we got to part ways here, but so that Jeremy and I have done a North Dakota hunt. I killed an elk in Colorado
last year,
and so I've done like a little bit of Western hunting. I think, I don't know if it's me leading the vision or not, or if we both have this dream, but I would love to do a high country Colorado mule deer hunt at some point. Maybe not Colorado, any state.
Or elk muley combo. Yeah.
I'm on the muleys, dude. The elk are kind of whatever for me. Yeah. Honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But a high country muley hunt, like what do you think would be a good next step for us to, like, obviously not this year, or but to start to like plan for or dream for? What's an attainable tag? What's something that would make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, obviously, like you said, which state you're wanting to hunt. But I mean, Colorado's a draw for all of mule deer. So obviously figuring out what unit you're going to want to hunt, and then figure out the draws and normal stuff with that. And then after that, really, it's not to overly simplify it, but with mule deer, it's for high country mule deer, it's more or less time behind the glass, right? Like there's mule deer everywhere in the western states, right? So once you backpack in, which I will say there's people all over, you're generally running into elk hunters, but once you get back there, right, it's just a matter of just parking your ass in a few different spots for, you always want to glass one full morning and one full evening, or evening then morning, before you maybe move on to another spot. It's just time behind the glass. And then at that point, on the stock, which this may not be exactly what you're asking, but they generally are going to bed down between 9 or 10. Within 30 minutes after that, they rebed. Once they rebed, that's generally where they're going to be planted for a while. Then it's learning long distance stalks in the high country where however I teach classes on this, but whatever, whether you use your phone or take a photo or whatever to come in on top of it to get the shot. Like, so as far as attainability, super attainable. Obviously I would try to stay 7 days back there if you can, depending upon how far it is. Really good optics, really, tripod glass, glassing off the tripod, like picking the mountainside apart, because it's not going to be like you're seeing 20, 30 deer a day. You might see 3 or 4, but it's certainly attainable. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not.
Yeah, you are. Well, I guess one thing on the glass, so like, and we, I don't know, like we rant about these things because for us and like for our experiences, they work amazingly. And I'm curious, for somebody who I'm sure spends a lot of time behind the glass, what your thoughts would be on this. You've heard of these like image stabilizer, technology.
I would not take those into the field personally.
So talk about that. Yeah, why not?
So when you look at optics, and I'm assuming are you using the SIGs?
No, ours are Canons.
Canon, yeah.
Okay, Canon. So like if you when you look through your objectives on glass, the image stabilization portion is out the window once it's on a tripod, because it's just as steady on a tripod as it is on the image stabilization glass. Freehanding is different, like whitetail hunting. It makes total sense. You're shitting your pants, the deer's coming in or whatever, it stabilizes it.
Yes.
But what you're wanting, obviously, is the clearest from edge to edge. So the reason why people get migraines is your eye is automatically going to move to the clearest portion of that glass. And you're not always going to be looking down the dead center of that. So as your eye goes to the edge, it snaps back over and over. And we're talking about glassing for 4 to 6, 8, 10 hours at a time. Yeah. So over time, you're going to get a headache from that. So one of it is just to build image stabilization binoculars. The optical portion of that, or the glass, is going to be lacking clarity in comparison to a higher end quality, optic. Not to say you can't get it done with image stabilization optics, but if you're glassing off a tripod, you're always going to beat even somebody freehanding image stabilization optics, because you're still not gridding correctly, where you're going left to right, like reading a book, exact. You move your tilt or pan head over, you come back. It's just like reading a book. It's grid squares. You can't do that freehanding image stabilization binoculars. You have to put those on a tripod. And what you gained on the image stabilization, you lost in edge-to-edge clarity, chromatic aberration, things like that, and then also light gathering. They're not going to be as bright because of how it's built. So do they work? Yes. Is that the optic I would choose for a high country hunt? It would be at the bottom of the list.
What is it that loses that edge-to-edge clarity? Why would like a high-quality spotting scope have that over these, image-stabilized binoculars?
Well, and let's just say binocular to binocular, so whatever. It's just the way that they're built, right? It's just when I say they're built, it's the quality of glass that goes into it, and then how they're built. But the quality of glass is the biggest portion of it. The image stabilization portion of it costs money. Yeah. If you add the highest end glass as well as that image stabilization portion and the weight of it, you're looking at a 5-pound set of binoculars that's probably $6,000 or $7,000.
Yeah.
Yep. Makes sense.
Well, it makes sense that we've kind of gravitated toward those because I've never glassed for more than what, Jeremy? An hour max. And so we don't have issues with glassing migraines, right? And for us, it's more from the truck. It's more like, so in the Dakotas, it's like, hey, drive the loop and you want to be able to throw them up and as quickly as possible, identify what you're looking at. So
or at a peak, locate and go.
But I'm glad that I asked because we probably will do a hunt like that at some point. And without asking you, I probably would have just ponied up and brought them,
Well, and I mean, and I'm not saying this isn't a bragging thing or whatever else. It's just we spend a lot of time out here. Glassing is like we've definitely had past people that we knew weren't lying to us, that were like, man, we didn't see anything, and they're like, yeah, we glassed this morning. There's no deer back there or whatever. And they could have been lying to us, but they didn't really glass, right? They might have thrown their optics up freehand and looked around. But I'm talking picking a mountain apart like for hours at a time, and I mean that's what it takes, and to a point, like there's times where when I go to my spotter. And I carry a little bit bigger optics, so I'll carry a 95 normally, or definitely an 85. I am literally looking at every patch of trees, zooming in to the highest power I can, looking inside of that patch of trees, looking for a beam, looking for velvet, looking for an ear. And a lot of times that is what you find is an ear. You find a hoof, you find whatever. Most people aren't going to glass at that level, but to be, especially as competitive as nowadays, you start with low-hanging fruit, free-handing quick where deer should be. You go to a tripod with binoculars, you grit out with that, and I mean pick it apart. Then you go to the spotting scope and you do the same thing. Anything with shade, a rock could have a leg sticking out of it because, where you're seeing like, okay, there's a leg there. It takes a level of patience and dedication to glass at that level that most people, I won't say are incapable of, they just don't know what it takes until you're back there. And it sucks fucking monkey balls, right? There's nothing worse than being behind a spotter for 12 hours or binoculars. But to be successful, sometimes that's what you have to do.
Wow. Yeah, that's wild.
You find that you turn a lot of stuff up, like after, I guess I don't know how to ask that question. Like,
I think I know what you're asking.
Go for it.
After 4 hours of glassing, you still pick things up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah. And that's why you do it. Otherwise, like you do that 4 or 5 times and you don't pick anything up, then the allure of like something coming is gone. And you're like, yeah, fuck that. I'm not doing that anymore. But yeah, you always, even if it's glassing and something just moves, right? Sun hits them and they reposition. Or when you're going down to like the very minute detail glassing where you're literally looking at logs for beams sticking over it. 9 times out of 10, I'm a little bit better on a spotter that I'm finding things that my buddy may find 10 deer, but I find 3 that he would have never found because I'm looking at those really minute detail areas. So.
Interesting. Hard to consider even like 12 hours behind a spotting scope, huh?
Well, it's not straight, but it's pretty much straight, right? Like, I mean, when I say that, I stop, go, punch my clown, take a piss, walk around, stretch my legs, you know what I mean? Make some food. Yeah. But, it's definitely, you're within, a 20-yard circumference of where you're glassing, taking breaks occasionally. So.
It does kind of sound like in a weird, torturous, sick way. It kind of sounds appealing. It's like, I'm up for that challenge.
Well, honestly, what it sounds like is sitting on a tree stand for 12 hours.
Yeah, kind of.
Like same
just kind of exhausting in a way that you wouldn't understand unless you're doing it.
Ears open, eyes always looking, what's that? Squirrel, doesn't matter. Like all of those things kind of, have your senses on overload.
Yeah.
So when you come off the glass or you come off the stand after 10 or 12 hours, you're fucking spent.
I bet.
like you feel spent.
I'll bet.
So yeah, I mean, that's, you know, from a whitetail relation to it, I mean, that's the way I would look at it. So
yeah, no, 100%. But fellas, I should probably.
No, you're good, man. We appreciate it, brother. We appreciate you jumping on and spending some time with us, man. And
you're welcome anytime, dude. I know this was kind of a quick one, and we were scrambling here in the beginning anyway. So if you get off the mountain at some point in the future, like, hey, dude, let's pick up where we left off. You're welcome anytime.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys having me on and what you're doing. I think it's great. So thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate
it. Buddy. Thanks, man.
Yep. Take it easy.
See ya.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Muddy and Stealth Cam trail cameras.
Cell cams, cell cams, cell cams. What an evolution the industry has seen, and we've experienced personally over the past 5, 10, whenever cameras were invented, right? It's like, man, it's totally changed the way that we inventory deer, pattern deer, and ultimately the decisions that we make when we're going out to hunt. They're a serious piece of the puzzle, and that information is invaluable for us. We trust the Muddy and Stealth cams, together to be able to collect any of that information.
Yeah, I mean, as an admitted trail cam addict, I've definitely been guilty of underhunting places or relying too heavily on that information that's come in. That said, it's an invaluable tool to the overall management plan and strategy that I have for my own properties or even hunting public land. It doesn't matter. We have a finite amount of time in going out and hunting. So when you and I are after a particular class or quality of deer, usually a mature buck, we can't waste time hunting an area where that deer doesn't exist. And those cell cams provide that information that allow us to spend the time in the area with the highest chance to accomplish our goals.
Say it all the time, man. You can't kill them if they're not there.
That's it.
So right now, any of our listeners can use code HUNTR20 to get 20% off either Muddy or Stealth cameras. We're certainly going to be taking advantage of that, and we hope you guys do too.
Yep, check out Stealth Cam and Muddy. Good to have Aron on there. I know he's, he's been gone for 5.5 weeks. He just came home to see his wife, and he's gone again.
Man, after 5.5 weeks, I'm honored that he would think of us. He
hit
us up the other day. It was like, hey, I'm back.
Slid right off of the British Columbia mountain and into the podcast room.
Yeah, I knew that about him earlier. Like, he spends a lot of time in the field.
Well, I mean, it's August and September. Like, once you get into October and November, I bet it fades real fast.
Yeah. After 5 weeks in the field, I'd be surprised if this podcast is what gets his wife to kill him.
Yeah. He's like, listen,
can you imagine telling your wife, hey, as per usual every year, I'm about to go out on my 5.5 week thing. I'll be back for 5 days, though.
But let me throw this out there. Could you imagine having 5.5 weeks between mid-October and late November to just be hunting for 5.5 weeks straight? Whitetails.
Oh, that's what I'm doing. Right? Pretty much.
I
have to work during midday and stuff.
Yeah, you have to work. But he's like gone.
Yeah, I know. He's just on the hunt. That's pretty cool. Pretty awesome.
I'm
jealous.
You kill a lot of deer that way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you just, it'd be cool just to be,
there are people that do it.
It sucks to have to pull yourself out of it, to do actual work.
I hear a lot of people are like, I'm hunting, I hunt 70 to 80 days a year. And I'm like, what the, like, where do you work? How do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Are you retired?
I don't know. I mean, everybody's got different deals. They're like, I work from home.
Speaking of retired, did your dad kill anything?
They're killing stuff. So Seth shot a 4x4 bull.
Not elk, but I mean, they're killing stuff.
Seth shot a 4x4 bull.
Okay.
Aron shot a 5x5 muley.
Whoa.
Which I assume just has small brows, 4x4.
So he drew a muley tag?
I think, yeah.
Okay.
I would hope so, yeah.
He's like, this one doesn't work?
Those guys are both gun hunting, though.
Oh, they're gun hunting.
And Dad's got his bow for elk.
Who else is with them? That's it?
The two of them and Seth's son, who's young. Like,
is that who you normally go with?
Or 16? Who he goes with?
No, like when you went last year.
No.
Different group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those guys were there like for the burn. They're local to the farm.
So your dad's the only one bow hunter.
Willie's in Africa. He just sent us a kudu and stuff that he killed.
So your dad's the only bow hunter right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No luck yet.
No. Well, luck on those. I think they're all helping each other.
I gotcha.
And so they got everything packed out, and like sounds like it's going pretty smooth so far. And they took a break for a 3-day spa.
Jesus, that is Dwayne to a T.
I guarantee my dad. He's like, well, there's a hot spring.
I was gonna say, hey, hot springs.
There's a hot spring here. He's like, what if we? So I think in total
3-day spa break.
I think in total they were gonna hunt like 10 days. So they pulled out and we're at the spa. The last I heard, the hot spring, whatever it is. There's rutting bulls on that mountain. You ever been in a hot spring?
Oh yeah,
pretty therapeutic.
It's on my bucket list. I have yet.
Really?
Yeah.
Colorado is the place to do it. Some of those hot springs you could go into, and then you jump in the river, and it goes from like 90 degrees to like 50.
Damn.
You almost go into shock.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
I heard
some of it goes colder than that, dude. When I was out there this winter, it was like
not in the
0
winter time.
degrees. It was freezing.
Is it true that most hot springs smell like sulfur?
Yes.
Do all of them?
I've not been in all of them, but
most of them.
The one I was in
is
smelled
it
like
like
sulfur.
is it like
It's pretty doable.
Okay.
Yeah, sulfur and urine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Urine's not
it's like a
natural
public
to the
pool, I
sulfur.
guess.
Oh,
It's not
very
enough.
much.
It's enough that you're like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
7 out of 10.
it might be you.
7 out of 10 chance you get a nude guy in one too. So just throwing that out there. Them nudists love the hot springs.
A nude guy, you said.
Yeah, nude guy.
Could
be Dwayne Prussia. I don't know.
After my internship in Alaska, my dad actually flew out and met me out there, and our trip was to drive down from Fort Yukon from North Pole, which is right by
the North Pole.
The North
With
Pole.
Santa?
Yes.
Oh.
100%.
Wow. Surprised you let you out of work that early.
Get this, dude. It's the real North Pole. It's like maybe self-proclaimed, but it's recognized as the North Pole. Of
Elves
Alaska.
and all.
Elves and all. Reindeer.
Wow.
There's a place that sells reindeer sausage right up the road.
Very nice.
Undoubtedly. I mean, that's right.
Yeah.
Did you eat it?
Yes, I did.
I bet it's great.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yep.
The plan was to drive from there all the way down to Anchorage, where we did like a little fishing trip. And along the way, we stopped somewhere at this like famous hot spring or whatever. And it was funny because it was definitely set up for like, it was a bunch of like couples and like honeymooners and stuff. And like my dad and I, whatever I was, 16 or something like that. And yeah, it was pretty funny. Kind of weirdly surrounded by intimacy, and it's like, hey.
Mind if we get
just avoid
in?
eye contact.
We can get in? Okay, cool.
Just me and my boy.
So, I mean, he's got some days left then?
I don't know, dude. Like, because I thought he was supposed to be here. I thought he was supposed to be getting home tomorrow, but I texted him today because he was pretty chatty there for a bit, but he didn't respond. So I guess I think he's hunting again now. Is my thinking. I think he's on his last couple of days of hunting, and he'll be home like in the next couple of days.
Cool. Very cool.
So yeah, I mean, they killed a bull, got the meat off successfully, killed a muley. So yeah,
nice.
I mean, they're in elk and stuff. So cool.
Same outfitter?
No outfitter, DIY.
Wow.
Yeah, public.
Whoa.
Yeah,
that's impressive.
I know. Yeah, I'm impressed.
I didn't even know it was rifle season.
He's got those old bikes that we have.
Oh, I would have left them on the mountain, put a bullet behind the ear.
Did he show you the setup? He was hauling like a ton of weight with him.
Yeah, I remember he sent me a picture, and your mom was looking at him like
he
he's
may
gonna
have
die on that.
I don't
thing.
know if there's.
Yeah, what it was like 90 pounds of gear.
No, it was like 250 pounds.
Plus him. On an old school
I told him I
Rogue
was like,
Ridge bike that barely held us.
I told him I was like, I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But
I don't think he'd get off the trailhead before that thing blew a tire.
I don't know. There was extras sitting on the porch the other day when I was up there.
Tires?
I think he ordered them and they didn't come in time. I don't know.
I'd just hang it up in a tree somewhere and let her be.
Yeah.
Set her free.
I don't know. I'm sure we'll get the whole story soon.
Yeah.
We should have him on.
Soon enough.
Bring Dwayne
my
in.
dad.
It would be, it probably, I think people would enjoy a dad recap of Kansas.
Yeah, that'd be
with
fun.
them in studio.
That'd be fun.
That would be cool.
They'd have fun with that.
Start off the new year.
We'll see, dude. Kansas sounds like did you commit, by the way, to our...
I'm going to book it this week, I guess.
So we're going.
I mean, we're going to Kansas.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I would assume we're going to the same place. We haven't really seen anything else that tells us not.
Sure, I mean...
Well, to that point, I thought we would go to our normal place and start hunting. And if like 3 or 4 days in, it's like, I don't know. We'll just drive 2 hours to the next group of farms and hunt where the walk-in and stuff is.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm feeling about it is if we can find some...
Because it's on the
good
way
places
home
to put
anyways.
the dads. We'll just go back to... I'd like to go to New Public. Like,
I was thinking going down further south on the river.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
I mean... Even if we drive 45 minutes, like we drove an hour last time to Lee's.
Yeah. It'd be nice
north.
It'd be nice even if we could set the dads up. Like one of the dads could pick the other dad up and they're close. And then even if you and I drove.
Can the dads be self-sufficient? I don't know. We'll come home and be like,
we're like, did you hit one? He's like, the question is how many?
Yes. The question is, we've been napping. We just woke up. Is it time to go? Oh, it's 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be fun though.
I'd be up for that.
Have the dads in pod for a Kansas recap. I don't know what we would get out of that one, honestly.
We'll do it.
So, but yeah, we are going to Kansas.
My dad's probably been waiting for me to ask him, come on.
Think so?
Maybe.
He's got nothing but time.
I know all of his friends are like, oh, hey, we watch the podcast and stuff. And he's like, he hears about it. You know?
We'd have to have an unswearing version for Dwayne.
There you go.
Yeah. Him, like when we drop the F-bombs.
The straight edge.
I see.
Yeah.
He's all right. No, he's fine.
Yeah.
He can roll.
He's gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My mom doesn't like it, but
yeah.
Oh well.
Just get a few hazies in the dads.
Uh-huh.
Ooh. Actually, Nick, in Kansas, we drank Miller High Life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or Coors
Not
Original.
Or Coors. Is it original?
Oh, yeah.
Coors Banquet.
Yeah.
Banquet.
That's what I was thinking. It was Banquet.
Yeah.
It's Banquet.
It's Banquets.
I've had one of those before. They're not bad.
One.
That's all you
Just
can
one.
handle.
How can you have just one?
I don't know. It was offered to me.
Yeah.
They feel right. Like whoever designed that bottle was like.
I feel like when I drink
Class
a
master.
Coors Banquet, I'm drinking a Duff beer from The Simpsons. Like,
The Simpsons.
you know.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, we have Kansas, but
Could go for a High Life right now.
yeah, that sounds good.
crack one off the whole forehead.
Well, we appreciate Aaron jumping on and talking to us a little bit about the Western side of things. Our minds are transitioning straight whitetail.
Couple
here.
bonuses coming at you. We just dropped my North Dakota one, and this Thursday,
We'll drop the Kentucky elk
speaking in real
bonus.
time as you're listening to it, we'll drop. Jeremy's going to recap your
Kentucky elk.
Kentucky elk hunt.
And we'll see how these go over, but as we have eventful hunts, we'll try to maybe just throw them in as a bonus if it fits into the schedule. So
Word.
we're going to throw them out there. But yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this, season is about to open for many states.
We're in it, dude.
Strap in.
We're in it.
Next 6 to 8 weeks are going to be pretty freaking wild.
Let's rock.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Later.
Take me